I'm going to continue our discussion from last week on pornography, fetishes, how one may feel about themselves after watching porn, some of the things that I have been seeing that's going on with clients, questions I've been receiving through my email, and some things I'm finding are a little bit alarming, and so I really did want to touch upon it. I don't see a lot of people talking about it in this way, so I'm going to work it out with you as I'm having a conversation on here, and of course I'd love to hear your comments afterwards, but let me get started. So basically, pornography has really started to change the minds of some people. And what I see happening is that there's a younger generation that has basically been brought up on pornography. And this has really expanded the mind of younger people as to what people do sexually, different acts that they may not normally see on, if they're out and about or in a relationship. And so these are things that are being brought to their attention that isn't something that they would see in a normal interaction. And I think it really is playing a part in their sex lives, and I think it's causing a bit of confusion for people. So let me try to go into it from a different perspective. When I posted this, I basically was talking about, can watching certain pornography create a fetish? And the reason I brought that up is because there is research that a fetish can take hold of somebody at the age of 12, 13. Usually there is a fixation, and I'm not talking about a large percentage of the population, but I do think that somebody can develop a fixation on this if they are going through puberty and they're masturbating to it, and it's really depends on their personality, and they can become hyper focused on this, where maybe if they hadn't seen it at such a young age they wouldn't have. So that is one thing that I am seeing more of, that I had not seen before, and I wanted to bring that to people's attention because we do have kids that are even in elementary school, junior high, that are able to access pornography on their phones, and they are watching it. So don't think that they're not, because they are. And the other thing is you have some people that are watching it and some people that are not. And there seems to be this idea that if you have two people that come together where somebody has been watching pornography and all kinds of pornography for a while and another person maybe has not, one person has had, I don't know if I want to call it a mind expansion, but it's kind of like if you eat a variety of different foods. And so now you're not just set on one food, you've had a variety of foods, or you've traveled to different places, or you've expanded your horizons. Your sexual repertoire is much more vast than somebody who hasn't been watching the pornography. And not only is it much more vast, but things that may turn you on may not be something that are realistic, and also it may become more common to you. It may be something that where if you hadn't seen it, it'd be like, wow, this is, kind of out there, or I would never imagine doing it, or I couldn't imagine doing it because I haven't seen it. And so in some ways, these different sexual acts, things that people are doing, it becomes somewhat normalized. And how this is playing out in relationships is I'm seeing that one person, their sexual repertoire is much more vast than another person's. They've normalized it, and now they're putting it onto their partner as to, how do I get them to do this? How do I get them to be involved in, not necessarily has to be a fetish, but I want them to do these particular acts that I've seen, and I want that to be part of my sex life. And what's the big deal? It's normal to me. How do I get them interested? I can't tell you how often I get this question. A lot of it has been geared towards cuckolding, but it's also been other sexual acts as well. And so the reality is, it's very difficult to get somebody to buy into your sexual fetish or what you've been doing for years and to feel that it's normal once that you've already been with the person. And what you like sexually isn't necessarily going to be what somebody else likes sexually. And if you're pushing a person to do it, you're going to affect the relationship. And for the most part, it's not usually in a positive way. And so I guess what I'm getting at is we need to take this idea of a free-for-all, of just watching porn and having it be something that you do all the time or that you've normalized. Like, let's say that you indulge in a piece of chocolate cake. Well, if you do it all the time and you're always eating that chocolate cake, you might get bored of it and try something else, and you may also gain a lot of weight from eating this chocolate cake because you're overindulging and you're not really controlling yourself. And so I think in some sense this happens with porn because it feels good at the time. And there is a sexual release. When you have a sexual release, you have all these hormones that are released. It's a stress release. And many times I find that people are using it for just that, a stress release, and it becomes their only stress release. Whereas, a healthy stress release could be exercising. It also could be masturbating, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to masturbate to pornography. Another problem that I'm seeing with people is that once they get into watching a lot of porn, it's not just that they're turning it on and watching a particular scene and having an orgasm and moving on. And in fact, people who do that once in a while, I really don't see that as much of an issue, and that really hasn't presented itself as a problem. I see more of the problem with people who are spending time trying to find the perfect scene. They're like building themselves up. They're having this sexual edging or sexual foreplay, and they could be spending hours a day doing this, just trying to find the right scene where they have an orgasm. And sometimes it becomes they're desensitized and they have to go to more unusual sexual acts or things that they normally wouldn't really be attracted to. And then that brings with it a certain amount of confusion, sometimes with sexuality, sometimes after they watch it with sexual shame. So that's just a whole other part of this that I'm seeing is this the sexual confusion, the sexual shame, beating themselves up afterwards. The other idea is, should I keep this in fantasy, or is this something I need to act out in reality? The line becomes really blurred after a while because they've become so used to watching this, it becomes normal to them. So they think, okay, maybe I should go out and try it. Where if they hadn't seen it at all, or they hadn't been spending so much time watching it, they may not be confused, or they may not feel like they have to act it out. So I guess the point I'm making is, so we have a situation, and I'm not blaming it on pornography, and I'm not here to put pornography down, but what I'm trying to say is I think people are not being responsible. I think they're being really very irresponsible when it comes to the amount of time that they spend doing this, not branching out into their lives and using other things to help them with stress, always reaching to watch porn. Maybe they're in a relationship and the sex isn't going well, so instead of trying to figure out how to deal with that, they reach for the porn, or the porn becomes more important than their actual sexual relationship. And I've seen problems develop too from watching porn and then not being able to get as excited when they're with their spouse or their partner without having the visual of the porn. And this creates another level of problems in a relationship. So what I would say is that if someone is going to be watching porn, number one, they have to realize that these are actors. and the scene is set up to create an orgasm or to create excitement, and it's not real. I mean, they're not real. They're acting out a scene for your enjoyment. So this would not relate to, having sex with your spouse or having sex with a partner, because not someone's going to want to go and maybe have sex with several people or with objects, or do it in a particular way, or be dominated or submissive, or cuckold or fetishes. I mean, there's just so many different avenues, things that people watch, where this really is not based in reality. It's like going to the movies and watching an action movie or something that spikes your adrenaline. You wouldn't, race your car, close to a cliff, or, take your motorcycle and speed in and out of traffic. I mean, some people might, but in reality, you would be responsible and you wouldn't do those things. Well, I think there is a lack of responsibility that I'm seeing on porn. It's just too available. It's available on the cell phone. It's available on the computer. It's just too readily available and there. And you know what? If somebody is stressed, or if somebody is not feeling good, or if somebody, whatever the reason is, they're reaching for it, we usually will do that as human beings. We will try to reach for something that makes us feel good instead of kind of putting it aside and doing something else. Our natural instinct is to, go for what's going to feel good. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's healthy, or it's the right thing to do, or that a person should do it. And as I'm trying to point out here, I've been seeing some really alarming things in my practice, in my emails, and some behaviors that are really not conducive to a good, healthy relationship, as well as people even out there dating and trying to get involved with another person. They're having problems with that too. So I just wanted to go over this one more time. I may even bring it up again as new things emerge, because I'm seeing new things every day. With technology, it's brought out a whole different dimension with pornography, sexuality, and I think for many people it's become confusing. So I guess what I would add to this is, if you do find that you fit into this category, it's important to kind of look at your patterns, because oftentimes in life we have these patterns every day that we do, and maybe try to break it up. Maybe not watch, pornography on your cell phone, or, don't bring it to the office, or, have it as a treat. You're going to have a piece of chocolate cake. Well, you're going to watch your particular porn that you like as a treat, rather than indulge in it in an unhealthy way. And I think if we can look at it more in those terms, then I don't think as many problems will be arising from people just spending so much time in indulging themselves this way. This is Dr. Dawn Michael, and if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, leave your comment, and as you know, I believe everyone deserves to have a healthy sex life, and so do you.